Look, Spotify's CEO in general does not look at music as art. He looks at it as content.
Period.
And so, it's like when you have a company that looks at creative art in that sense, it's like you should see that as something to be like, maybe I should pump my brakes as to be a part of it.
Let's go to my man Buckshot, OG, legend. Has some interesting thoughts about music just in general, but more importantly, he mentioned one thing what jumped out to me was he had an interesting take on streaming and I guess how long streaming is going to be around, and he basically was talking about it as if it's like the biggest heist ever. So there's a video reaction that I put in Discord. Let's pull that up, watch the video and react, because I like Buckshot. Buckshot is one of them OGs I try to listen to whenever he pops out. I was a big 𝐀𝐁𝐎𝐃 fan, so let's see what the OG's talking about. I think this up towards the top, Lone. I put Buckshot in the message. I don't know what that was in relation to Bob Ross. I think that's just the face. Oh.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, let's go.
You all right?
By the hairs on his chin,
chin. Over for radio, like radio will be obsolete in the near future.
Obsolete now, but
I feel like the station.
The only ones that's keeping radio alive is they better think for automobiles. Yeah. If it wasn't for cars, radio would be done. Look, streaming is about to be gone. You think I told you about radio dying? Streaming got a bullet in his head.
I don't believe that at all.
We went from having no control of what we had on radio, we just had to listen, to having a little bit of control, which is streaming. We pay a little money every month. We can control what we listen to because we have options of thousands, but we can control what we listen to because we'll pick number 5. Streaming is going to die because streaming is an illusion. It's a ripoff. You think it's the biggest heist that's ever been pulled off ever in life, and streaming is based on giving you access to my library. So every month I pack up my library with music. You pay me $29 a month and I give you access. You don't pay me at any point in time, you won't have access. So that actually you're walking around with a bluff card in your hand. You think you control things, you think you own things. But just like when Instagram went down and Facebook went down, people lost their minds. People couldn't know, they didn't remember who they was with. They didn't know, the world went crazy. People couldn't get in contact with this one. They lost their pictures, all the other stuff. So the streaming is a kind of form of no control. There's something now called the chain. Everyone knows, I heard of blockchain. I heard of the blockchain. I've heard of the block. You better understand the blockchain and know it ain't going nowhere. The blockchain is just another avenue. But we went from no control, little bit control, to all control. See, the blockchain gives you all control.
So he's thinking that the blockchain and crypto and that aspect is going to be the future, and streaming is going to go away because of the control of that. That's what he's alluding to here.
Shout out to everybody who bought an NFT.
Yeah, NFTs is essentially what he's alluding to here. I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
I don't agree.
You don't agree? Why not?
No, because I think we've had this discussion before. It's too far gone. The only way that anything could rewind this situation that's going on with streaming is if the artists all got together and got on one accord and figured out a way to do something else other than streaming.
Which is the blockchain, which is what he's talking about.
Is it? So explain blockchain to me.
Well, he's talking essentially NFTs, right? So it's the digital currency of NFTs. So in the same sense of how nowadays what he's saying is, okay, cool. The problem with streaming, now I agree with him from the aspect of that streaming as a heist.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Like,
we all are in on that, I would say.
But I think the problem with this is like we're giving ownership to these streaming platforms to exactly do kind of what he said. It's like you have access to all this music for this amount of money, and it's like these streaming platforms are holding control over all of that and who gets paid from listening to it. There's no control in the person who's actually creating the content. Realistically, you have to put it on there. The NFT idea version, the stuff that I saw floating around for a while there was, all right, cool. You put out a song, you put out 100 copies of this song, whatever. You can, or however many, 1,000, 100,000, whatever. you can buy this, you can keep it in your own personal library. If, let's say there are only 1,000, let's say you sell this copy to somebody else. Let's say I sell my version to you, Terry. What happens in that is that with this blockchain, or what's built into this system, is that once I resell it to you as well, the artist, who's Jay Moore, gets a kickback every time that's resold automatically. So the artist still gets still some type of ownership over how they put it out, when they put it out, how much they put out, the price they put it out for, everything that's a part of it. Now, am I 100% caught, or do I believe that's where we're going, like right away or anytime soon? No.
Right.
But I think that's what he's alluding to, and I think that's the direct answer to what you just said.
But still, with these streaming platforms, I can elect to buy the product that I'm listening to if I want to, and it will download to whatever device that I have.
You can't do that on Spotify, can you?
I don't use Spotify.
So Spotify is just strictly streaming. So you can just buy it on YouTube. Can you actually download the file?
YouTube Music, I believe you can purchase just like you can on Apple Music.
Can you?
Yeah.
I've never seen my sales on these other. I know you can on Apple, but I
can
know
on Amazon as well.
I know you can on Amazon. So there are some that you can do.
Definitely
But
can.
what's the
on-
biggest
can on
streaming
Spotify.
platform?
Spotify.
There you go.
Oh, Spotify is the biggest streaming.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would say so.
We don't like Spotify anyway.
No, for sure. So I think to what he's saying, I agree with a lot of what he's saying. I just, to your point, Terry, as well, I don't think that we are anywhere close to this point of streaming going away. I think they just have too much control now. I think it would take the artist rising up. I think it would take a major change in structure of the way everything works. I kind
of figure whenever that day comes, though, that the streaming platforms will fall in line so that they're not going out of business, so to speak. So whenever those agreements go through and the proper cuts are made, and you can do this with the service now versus what you could do back then, I think that they'll fall in line. I don't think it'll just go away because it's too convenient for people.
Yeah.
Like the average consumer does not care about buying a hard copy or even the digital copy of anything right now, because they can spend one price that would pretty much back in the day is the cost of one record, one CD, and you have everything available to you. So unless there's like some, I don't know, it's almost like the capital, it'd have to line up like crazy.
The capitalist world would have to collapse.
Exactly, for that to even happen. I don't see that happening anytime soon.
Yeah, that's kind of what it would be. I read something from that Curtis King shared recently. See if I can find this about, and it's stuff that we all already know, but it was related to how many streams would equal like an album drop or something, or how much it would cost. Like the relative, Here we go. So a $10 CD or a USB is 2,941 streams, 2,941 streams, 365 days a year, approximately 8 years of daily streaming listening it would take to the equivalent of like a $10 CD.
That's wild.
That's crazy, bro.
And so like a major shift like legitimately needs to happen. I don't know if the blockchain is the answer to that. It's definitely a potential answer to that. Whether it can be adopted or not, I think that's up to, for debate.
What you think, Jay?
Well, I think, just like we engage in these conversations on a pretty regular basis, because it seems like there's always something new that's changing, or they're changing some rule about how artists are getting paid or how they're not getting paid when you talk about streaming. Once again, I've alluded to this before, we have been conditioned to not pay for anything anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
We're conditioned to pay for our memberships, our monthly, whatever, to maintain our movie collection, our music collection, and our video game collection. Now, I know I reference video games, probably more than I should considering it's a music podcast. But when you think about, what's the service, the Xbox Game Pass, after a certain point, there are certain games, it'll come up and say leaving soon. And then if you want to continue playing that game, they offer to you for like maybe 40 or 50% off of the price from the digital store. You know, if you want to keep playing it after they remove it from that, I don't know if that would work for musicians, where if, okay, after a certain amount of time, if you want to keep continuing to listen to my art, I'll offer it to you for a certain price, but you're going to have to pay for it. And because honestly, you listening to, like I said, I bought the Killer Mike album, the physical piece, because there's no way I could listen to it enough times for me to equal one purchase of the full album.
That's why that's why I copped the tape.
Yeah.
Same reason.
So I think maybe if they took the Xbox Game Pass way and said, okay, yes, you've listened to it for this much. If you really like it, here it is for this much percentage off, and you don't want to wait too long, because if you do, then you're going to have to pay for the full. If you want to continue listening to my art, you're going to have to pay for the full price, you know, the $13.99, you know, I will give it to you for $6 or $7, you know, if you go ahead and just pay before it's removed from streaming. Now, once again, the streaming partners aren't going to like that, so that's probably never going to happen. But, you know, you could do what Lone did and take your music off of streaming and say, if you really want to continue to enjoy, here is a way of, you know, a direct to consumer way for you to continue to enjoy my music. Once again, there's so many new rules that people have to come up with new solutions if they want to actually eat off their art. You know, once again, if you're just doing this and you have a big enough audience to where, okay, they just have to have access to it so they can come and pay the money to come see me, and I can sell them a T-shirt or, you know, whatever. But, you know, I mean, we've been eventually talking about the Live Nation thing, and you see what they're doing there as far as people's touring, and it's another trap,
right? Yeah,
to not pay artists. You know, so I mean, there's going to have to be some adjustments. I don't think streaming is going anywhere. Once again, we have figured people are not going to get back into paying for art unless you force their hand.
It's because we value ease of access more than we do art.
Yes,
absolutely.
You know,
So-
we had this
It's
conversation. We have a conversation about this a couple weeks ago.
Like
It's
I said,
100% about the access.
I know people that used to buy entire seasons of TV shows, like The West Wing or Sex and the City or whatever. They have those box sets. It was like, why would I buy that box set now when I have the entire thing streaming? Now, the streaming rights might move from Amazon and then they go to Netflix, and I have to keep up with that. But still, that's cheaper than me buying, you know, 8 seasons of a TV show.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, I haven't bought, like I said, I don't buy video games anymore because I have Game Pass.
I will say Bandcamp, I know it's not your typical streaming platform. You can stream music on there, but you don't get streaming royalties from it. But Bandcamp does have that option. You can go there and you can set it when you're releasing an album to say, all right, you can give somebody 5 listens before they have to buy it or whatnot. And, you know, I think that's an interesting idea that I've not really thought about in the realm of streaming before. But that's a potential thing, you know, and maybe it's like a direct donation built in. Like if Spotify, cool, you can listen to this album, cool, but if you want to listen to it more, you have to pay the artist directly via a button on Spotify or something. You know what I mean?
You'll see the prompt. It'll pop up on Bandcamp once you run it a few times. It'll, you know, I'm paraphrasing. It's come to the point where you have to make a choice or whatever, and it literally pops up and you can't play it anymore.
Yeah.
So,
but at the same time, too, like, look, I took all my music off Spotify, but I sold a single yesterday and one before that and 2 EPs last week. All that is more than I probably would have made on Spotify the entire year. So, I mean,
facts.
And I don't even promote it. So it's like, it's just, when it comes down to, it's like us as artists, we want to play the game. Because we you know, it's oversaturated. It's a hard game to be in. And we look at Spotify and we look at these streaming platforms and we say, you know what? It's making it easier for us to get our music in these people's hands. But the problem is Spotify and streaming platforms aren't the answer there. The answer is to just promote your music better and to be a better artist in front of people, you know.
And in turn, it's going to make people have to make better projects if it ever leads to that. Because, I mean, now, like, you can record a song right now and have it up on a streaming platform tomorrow.
Yeah.
True.
And if you have to rely on somebody actually buying it for them to be able to listen to it, like a blockchain,
that's real,
so to speak.
That's real.
You're going to have to make better product.
Yeah.
You know, we talk about artists banding together and this, that, and the third. I've talked about this before on different levels. There are so many people who would rather be famous than rich.
Absolutely.
Then it's gonna be hard to get people in a room and say, okay, this is what we're gonna do. Because if you're not on a certain playlist, if you're not being pushed, you know, a lot of times we talked about how people are releasing music into a void.
True.
You know, where they don't have, there's a large amount of songs on Spotify or Tidal or whatever it is you have that you stream music that have less than 5 listens. you know, and like I said, there's all this music. Like you can go in and you'll type in, you'll be looking for something else, and you're like, what? What is this?
Yeah.
You know, and then it's something obscure. Some people I feel like are getting those 4 or 5 listens on accident. You know,
yeah, it's possible. I mean, there's lots of music out there that just, I mean, it's not even an argument for the streaming platforms, but there's an astronomical amount of music that is on streaming platforms that has never even gotten one play. You know, and that threshold, it's like the argument conversation over the access that people have to put their music on there. I think it's something that's kind of manufactured to be. I just wish people would look at it from a sake of like, there was a time when putting your music on streaming platforms was a thing that not everybody could do very easily unless you're on a label or something like that. And now that it's like super easy to do, it's like it completely took the marketing aspect out of like promoting your own stuff. I don't know. It made it a little bit too easy, I guess, for in general. And it kind of makes it, as an artist, sometimes you put it on streaming platforms and you think, okay, my job's done. That should never be the end of your job for your music. It should be, you know, you have a lot more work to do. And I think streaming platforms in general, if nothing else, like it kind of creates like this, what's the word I'm looking for? Like this ease, this like nonchalantness or something of like, this is all that I have to do. And
it's a
like,
passive way of thinking you're going to become.
Yeah. Yes. And I feel like if from artists, like, try to approach putting music out like you're not going to use a stream platform, and intentionally, and right off the bat, your mind's going to be like, oh well, I have to do a whole lot of other stuff. You should already be thinking that. Oh,
you mean I have to actually work this record? I have to work this project? Yeah. Because you know, we always talk about the access and how easy access is as it relates to streaming, but to your point, Lone, as from a creative standpoint, it's like, okay, I got it on Spotify. Now, so I got it out there. So now the world has
a Facebook post, and that's it.
Yeah, and that's it. But that mentality is not. It's not conducive to the artist winning. It's more of a, man, I got it out there, so the world has it now. But is there really a benefit there? Because we know they're giving you pennies on the stream.
Pennies,
if that
fraction.
I'm being nice, right, when I say that. So the direct to consumer, now you really got to stand in the paint when you choose to do that, but you have to really have a conversation with yourself about where is the benefit. It's cool to be able to say, yeah, you can catch it on Spotify, iTunes, catch it on all these places, but what's there? What are you really getting from that? Versus actually getting, like to Lone's point, you might have to actually work your records.
Yeah, and
he sold EPs and probably was in the bed.
Yeah,
and you know for a fact it's never going to be that on the streaming.
It's not going to be the same amount. And I think that's just so back to the whole point of what he's saying. Like, I don't think streaming is still going anywhere.
Right.
But I do think that artists in general, we need to band together, and shouts to Curtis King. We reviewed one of his videos. He's talked about this at length about how bad Spotify and these streaming companies really are for the artist economy in general. And, look, Spotify's CEO in general does not look at music as art. He looks at it as content.
Period.
And so, it's like when you have a company that looks at creative art in that sense, it's like you should see that as something to be like, maybe I should pump my brakes as to be a part of it. But it's, everybody wants to be cool. Everybody wants their music on Spotify. It's like, nah, man, like you got to slow down.
It's definitely the cool thing to do. Yeah, man, you can catch it on Spotify. I'm on Spotify right now.
I mean, it was the cool thing to do like 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago or something. I think everybody can do it now, but
it's not as special. Yeah. It's nowhere near special.
It's not special
I agree
anymore,
with that. I agree with that.
But still, streaming is not going anywhere unless I think there's a major financial collapse, and these corporations are forced to not be monopolies. And
to Terry's point, though, like we've always talked about this, all of us, it has to be drastic. Because if not, it's just too easy. It's too convenient.
This is what it would take. It would take for somebody to literally get out here and say, I don't put my music on streaming. I figured out a way to do direct consumer, and you see him with a Rolls Royce and a big house and gold chains, and be like, this is what you can get if you do not put your, I see all you poor rappers or whatever.
Yeah.
You are on streaming. You're famous and not rich. Okay. Maybe I'm not as famous as you are, but I'm actually rich, and you need to follow this program.
Yeah.
And until somebody figures that out,
well,
then it's going to be a thing that where people will be like, I just want to be on the fly. I want to be on the front page of Spotify because that means I've made it.
Yeah,
it's going to take somebody finding a doc to get them the DeLorean and go back to the 80s and 90s to actually do it the way people was doing it out the trunk.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's the only way I see that happening, because I don't think one particular artist is going to be able to figure that out without the help of streaming
services
and social media, essentially.
Yeah, social media is very much tied into this as well, you know, and I mean, to the famous aspect of it. I think that's a part of it, but I also do think, like, I think we as artists, there need to be more people that are just showing that there are alternatives to this.
Right.
Because everybody, I don't know anybody that is like, man, streaming is great pays art is great.
You never hear. I don't hear that.
That's not even a conversation.
Facts.
Like, Spotify's not even going to tell us that that's good. You know what I mean? So
Facts.
it's just more people talking about it, and more people, like, it's like there needs to be like a full guideline set up. Like, this is how you do it, you know? And, you know, for the longest time, I always looked at streaming as, you know, it's just another cool thing to have. You know, it's like, cool, I have my music on streaming because the people that are going to, and this is an argument that I made in the past for streaming, you know, like, there are people that are just going to listen to your music on streaming. We talked about this with the Black Star album, right?
Yes. Yes.
You know, there are some people that are only going to listen to you if you're accessible in that manner. But I think there are ways to be accessible without compromising your, I don't know the right words for this. I think there's ways to do it without, like, kind of bastardizing yourself in the sense of in that manner. So, and I'm not off all streaming platforms, but I got off of Spotify just off of principle. So, but I don't know. I think there's a way to do it. There, you know, some people are only going to listen to you if you're on Spotify, and some people are only going to listen to you if you're on Apple. Some people are only on Tidal or YouTube. You know what I mean? So, I think it's finding that balance and being okay with the fact that some people just aren't going to hear your stuff.
I'm with you, bro. I'm with you.